Are you a cozy gamer and play games like Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing where you're building up a base with your friends and a community with them where you go fishing and plant crops and things like that? And also like to hunt monsters? Because those are the elements of the game that we are going to be talking about today, which is Cottages and Cerberuses. And I am so very excited because this game is a perfect mix of really fuzzy, cozy feelings and cozy games where you kind of grind and create the best little community that you can that is fully inspired by Cottagecore, along with hunting these really unique monsters to actually be able to upgrade your base. It's really, really interesting and insanely cool, so I can't wait for you to listen to this episode. So I don't want to spend any more time on the intro here, so let's get into it. Hello everyone, welcome to the RPG Goblin. I am your host Willow, and I am the one who asks all the questions. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about an up-and-coming game called Cottages and Cerberuses. I'm really, really excited about this game. I love the concept because it's a mix between like a cozy game along with like monster hunting, and I just cannot wait to get into it. And to talk about this game, I brought on Chris, who is the actual creator of Cottages and Cerberuses. Chris, if you would like to introduce yourself, please go ahead.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for having me on. So I am Chris Pellick. I am all-around nerd, software engineer, game designer. Spent several years doing video games before retiring, and then recently have been popping back into the world of designing games with tabletop in particular.
Very exciting. I love that. And where can people find you?
My main social media is Cottagecore_RPG at Twitter.
Perfect. Amazing. And so this is really exciting. And correct me if I'm wrong, Cottages and Cerberuses is coming out on Kickstarter?
Yes, in September. The Wednesday after Labor Day is our plan.
Wednesday after Labor Day. Here, I don't even know. Here, I'm going to look what day that is, actually.
I think it's a 6th, maybe?
So it's going to be coming out on September 6th, which is really, really exciting. So that's only in a few months, which, are you excited about that?
Yeah, no, I am really excited about it. I originally was planning a sooner release date, but then I decided wanted to focus more on marketing and did a bunch of stuff to move up some stretch goals ideal and just make them a base part of the book, make a base part of the funding goal, and I've like doubled the size of the book.
That's amazing. I mean, marketing is always a great thing to do, and I'm so glad to have you on the RPG Goblin to talk about your game today.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yay! I'm so glad. So I think to kind of get this started, I want to first cover what is Cottages and Cerberuses? What kind of game and what kind of stories does it tell?
So my elevator pitch is it is a Cottagecore monster hunting RPG. It is very much Animal Crossing crossed with Monster Hunter.
Love it.
Obviously, a big part of that is kind of the duality. It is a game that is meant to be cozy, but can be used for not cozy storytelling. It is supposed to be very easy to learn, but like, I'm a Pathfinder 1E and 2E player. I want that crunch. And so I want it to be a game that is very accessible, but also gives people who want more crunch something to really chew on and think about.
Interesting. So it's a bit lighter on the rules, but still has some of those elements of crunch. What are some of those elements? Because I'm now very curious.
Well, so part of that is character curation. This isn't a narrative system; it's more of a game system. Less powered by the apocalypse, although there's some major influences there. More thinking about rules like a board game when it comes to certain parts. And so part of that is character curation is tons of options to really customize your character, fights can be really hard, which means you have to really be strategic about what you do. But you can also play it as a much lighter game just by not putting out the deadly monsters. Have some of the easier ones.
Yeah, so it kind of gives those options for people who want the cozy and the crunch. I like that a lot. So I am curious. So you talked about some of the inspirations for the actual game, but what inspired you to actually create it?
So I've been hacking systems since I was 12. I'm about to turn 30 in this weekend. I am.
Well, happy
I've
early
been doing
birthday.
this. Thank you. I have been doing this for most of my life at this point. The very first thing I did was a Kingdom Hearts hack for D&D 3.
Oh, that sounds wild.
Yeah. So I've always been making games, making tabletop games, but never really, they've always been for me, myself, and my friends, and I really wanted to put something out there. And then more specific to this specific thing was I really wanted something to cater to my table that has a lot of different types of people who really love the crunch, people who really love the storytelling, people who want a lighter game, people who want to end every game crying, and so Cottages and Cerberus really is kind of built from the position of wanting a game that can do multiple things.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I love having those options. And I mean, I, for one, have a table as well where there's, different play styles and people love different aspects of the same game, loving the crunch more, loving the fluff or coziness more. So I think that is such a fantastic thing. I think that absolutely amazing. When it comes to Cottages and Cerberuses, I would love to delve into some of the actual character creation in a moment. What are some of the lessons that you've learned so far developing this game?
So I think one of the biggest things a game designer has to learn is to kill your darlings, to axe the concept, the monster, the game rule that you love. Sometimes it doesn't fit. And that is usually rule number one. Lesson number one. Lesson number two is to learn when to push back on that stuff. For me, I got a lot of pushback about the spoons mechanic. So spoons is the research. I will talk a bit more about this, but it is inspired by the spoons theory of mental health and chronic illness.
Yeah.
It is your health and capacity. Lots of people, when I initially shared them, were like, that's cool, but no one is going to understand what you're talking about. Turns out, lots of people understand what I'm talking about, and I'm very happy that I kept in like that, because it gave it just the name puts the ideal of certain type of stories in people's heads.
Yeah, that's immediately what that's immediately what I thought you were talking about when I was going through the PDF that you shared with me and I saw spoons. I'm like, oh wait, the term spoons being able to, I thought that was fantastic.
Yes, it is exactly that. So that's probably the biggest part. The second big lesson was really I've been learning how to market myself. I've been learning how to juggle all of the other parts of publishing a game besides, publishing, writing the actual game.
That is so fair. That's always the struggle, but some of the most rewarding parts, because then so many more people get to see your game, and it's absolutely amazing. And actually, I don't know this. Is this, you've mentioned that you've done hacks before, but is this your first published game that you're going to be doing?
This is my first published tabletop game, yes.
Amazing. That's absolutely fantastic. And I guess I should have clarified, because you did mention that you did game design for apologies for that. But I think that's absolutely amazing. And again, I have to say, I love the idea I love the idea that you have for it. So I think it's such a super strong idea for your first game, or well, your first tabletop game that you're publishing. But yes, I would actually like to though get started in some of the actual like mechanics and aspects of the game, starting with character creation, because I think everyone's always super curious to know what elements does a game bring for character creation, and I'd love to talk about that first.
Perfect. And for me, character creation is very important. I was the kid who made hundreds of characters just for fun growing up. I really like my mechanics to reflect their stories, and that is a huge part of this. So the first part, when I introduce character creation, I like to introduce the concept of calm instead of your regular attributes, your strength, blah blah blah. We have charm, alchemy, lore, and muscle. Calm.
Very nice.
Charm is your social skills. Alchemy is your magic, but also awareness. Lore is knowledge and problem solving, and a bit of will. Muscle is everything physical.
Every single thing. No, actually, I like those stats. I love when people move away from those like 6 like D&D stats, you know, all of that. So I think those are fantastic. And calm. What is calm again? Like in general?
So those are your stats.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry. Yes,
good.
Absolutely. No, that's amazing. And so those are the main stats. You mentioned how so with the different characters and their stories, is that kind of taking from a bit of Powered by the Apocalypse inspiration, or from other games that use like tropes or like the character tropes and character stories to base like playbooks or classes around?
No, not really. It's really just kind of came from the number of stats that I need. I've written games that had more than 6 stats. I've written games with 6 stats. For this game, 4 felt right. And because it really was kind of coming from people who might be familiar with D&D, but just kind of boiled down into what I really needed for this.
Yeah, no, I think that is fantastic. And, you know, it's comes from like tradition where people expect those 6 stats, but I think that's exactly it. You put in what you need. You shouldn't stretch the stats out to try and fit in 6 just because that's the norm when it comes to those types of games. But no, that's amazing. And with the actual character creation itself, do you have equivalent to how does that work? What are the steps to actually like create your character and what they can do?
So calm is why I start there, because it's the first step. It's basically, from D&D terminology, you have the array method. So you assign the number 1, 2, 3, 4 to each to one of the 4 stats. To start with.
Very nice.
So very, very simple. No math in this part. No points by. No rolling.
No one needs math anyway.
Yeah, well. The secret from game design, from my perspective, is a good system is very math heavy, but it hides it from the players.
Yeah, you kind of do the math work before, you know, it goes to the people, so that when they play, it's easy for them. No, I like that a lot. Absolutely. So with these stats, you know, assigning the numbers, what is like the dice roll mechanics for this game? What do the numbers represent?
So the dice are on the dice roll mechanics. Checks are it's a dice pool. Whenever you attempt something, you and the GM, Cozy Master in this game, Cottage Master in this game, technically,
I love it.
will decide what attributes you are using. You will then roll that number of d6s, and the CM will tell you a target number. You count the number of dice you rolled that meets or beats that target number. You need 3 dice for a success. If you have over. If you have 1 or 2, you could fail, or you could succeed at a cost of the spoons. You either were reckless and got injured, or it took just a bit more mental energy for you to succeed.
I like that.
0 successes is a auto fail. And then sometimes if you get 4 or more, you could trigger super success abilities.
Ooh. What happens when you super succeed?
It varies from check to check. I love my degrees of success. For
Same.
damage, damage has a main super success where every dice you rolled above 3, like every successful dice you rolled above 3, is an extra point of damage.
Oh wow.
And so it's very much has kind of like there's a on-ramp to get damage, because you need a few successes to get 1, but once you get past it, damage really ramps up.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds crazy. Oh man. Oh, I'm excited to get a bit more into the combat, but that sounds really awesome. And I have to say, from someone who I am a very big fan of tiered success and failure, so I just absolutely love that. So I do like dice pool mechanics too. I'm glad that it's a dice pool because I just think they're really neat. So with the actual, assigning your stats, what's the step that goes next?
So it varies from steps to steps. And so I usually have people choose abilities. You get 3 ability slots. There are, in the documents I sent you, I believe, there are 150 abilities, and I've written about 150 more that are not laid out. So, an alternative is, at the back of the book, I have, right now, 5. I think I'll probably have 10 in total quick start characters that you can just grab, because some players will get overwhelmed when I say you choose 3 out of 250 abilities. Other players will spend the next week looking at every ability to choose their perfect character and love every second of it. And so abilities really, really vary. We don't have a skill system, so you can't. But some abilities might be like, you gain a bonus to checks if you're attempting to lie. You gain a bonus to cooking. Some abilities are like, you can just control fire. Because and some abilities are kind of more freeform, kind of being inspired more by Powered by the Apocalypse. Some have explicit rules for combat and what's not.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like the variety, and it kind of and I like that there are a lot to choose from, because it keeps people, it's probably everyone's going to have unique abilities and not really going to double up often, because there's so much that you can choose from.
Very much so. And so I actually, just this Monday, we started a actual play to show off the system. And I have just been blown away by the characters that were curated, and very much like seeing how they started with looking through the abilities and being like, oh, if I could do this and this, I could make this very unique character. And then building the story from that is really cool to see. There's so much variety. It can be a bit overwhelming, but I think there's some really cool options, and if that sounds cool to you, you would love it.
Absolutely. I think the only thing that I would say is, like, at least what I would hope if I wanted to play this game is for, like, the abilities for, like, almost them to be put on, like, lists, almost like slight descriptive lists and stuff like that. I feel like that would make character creation a little bit more approachable, but I love the variety.
So one thing that I'm adding is, I call them cozy callings. They're kind of a combination of classes and playbooks. and they give you some narrative questions to ask, and also a list of abilities that you might grab that are related to that calling.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot.
So it's very much going to the more options down to how you make your character.
No, I like that. That's really good. Ooh, very exciting. I mean, I'm always one for, I love when games can make it more accessible and easier to get into and all of that. And I mean, just with almost having those playbooks and pre-generated characters and things like that just make it easy to do something like a one-shot or a small game. Though I'm curious, so you're doing the actual play right now. Have you done a lot of play testing for when you were doing the bulk of the design for this game?
So much, a lot solo, and but a good amount with real people as well. A lot. I've ran through every monsters, which we will get to about 3 to 5 times, and there's quite a few of them. And then I've done a good amount of one shots. This is my first campaign with the system there.
Very exciting. How's that going so far?
It's going really good.
I love to hear that. No, that's really exciting. Do you have anywhere, is this just a is this an actual play that people can go and check out, or is this just a personal game?
It is a actual play, and which at Chaotic Goat Productions.
I'm writing that down for myself. All right, that is fantastic.
Well, I guess a related thing is, so this is presumed to be a fantasy game. There is no race, species, ancestry. There's no rules about that. You can be whatever you want to be, and then just choose abilities to emulate whatever racial species powers you want.
I like that a lot. Ooh, actually, how easy do you think it would be to create, like, as, let's say if I decided to run the game, how easy would it be for me to create, like, my own custom abilities to add into my own, like, campaign?
I think it's pretty easy because, depending on how complicated of an ability it is, the easiest would be ones that are skill boosts. You can find something similar, like cooking, and see how many bonus dice it gives you to a check. Similar with like more abstract powers, you can find a similar power and copy it. I think it's not too hard to curate a lot of these.
That's fantastic, because I would, I think everyone always loves the option of being able to add even more to their game. So having those easier things to customize. There we go. There's the word.
I mean, it's no surprise, like, coming from that very hacking system, I'm all for that. I think every game should actually, every long-term campaign should offer some new mechanical options to really, like, ooze the themes you're going for.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. I love that so much. And so when, we, with the character creation, so picking out the abilities, is there any other steps that that you have to go through? Ooh, exciting. Okay.
Two more steps. I'm gonna go out of the order from the book because I think this is better. You have one equip slot. This is it's kind of assumed that you have like your basic mundane gear. You have one slot for a magic item.
Ooh.
You could also instead use that to have a pet.
Pets.
And right now we have about, I don't know, maybe 20 magic items, and some of them are basic, some of them are pretty unique. Pets are are things such as a baby Cerberus, a tiny mushroom dragon, a shark dog, a penguin. There's about 10.
So cute.
I want to add more, and they are full combatants. They are full extra characters that can kind of just follow you around and help you out.
Oh, that is adorable. I love that so much. I want a pet. Oh, that's so cute. And so you say that they're like their own character. Do they have
Um,
like their own stat block, or something similar to a stat block, or is it more similar to the characters where they have abilities?
they have their each one has a few passive abilities,
Hmm.
and then they have their own stat block. They get their
Ah,
own turn in combat. That also means that they can lose health, just like a character can lose spoons.
ooh, oh no.
Uh, which is maybe adds a bit of a tension narratively.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you wouldn't want your pet to die, and so I guess that
Exactly.
and that I think even adds extra, just like you said, kind of those extra complications to a combat where it's like you might want to protect your pet if you have your pet around and all of that. I love that. Oh, that's cool.
Uh, and then so the final thing is one of the things that I really want to expand more on. The last thing you need to choose is your vibe.
Is your vibe.
Your vibe. So spoons are. This is kind of a majorly a resource management game. Every
Hmm.
check you make, there's a chance that you can only succeed if you spin spoons.
Hmm.
When you get attacked, you lose spoons.
Hmm.
Vibes kind of balance that out. Vibes are how you regain spoons.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, one vibe is photosynthesis. You probably aren't a plant. Well, you might be, but you probably aren't. Either way, sunshine is still good for you.
Hmm.
Whenever at the start of a scene, you regain one spoon if it is sunny out.
Oh, I love that.
Uh,
That is so cool.
we have the introvert vibe and the extrovert vibe.
Hmm.
The whenever you the extrovert vibe is called cheers. Whenever you start the scene with other companions, you regain spoons.
Hmm.
The introvert's vibe. Whenever you start the scene solo, you regain spoons. You regain spoons more spoons that way because balance. But similar, and there's about 10-ish. One of my favorite is Bet Your Luck, which allows you to gamble your spoons on the check.
Oh no.
Um,
That sounds fun.
there's there's a bunch. There's a like one specifically for if you are like connected to a character deeply and possibly romantically, but not specifically.
Hmm.
Whenever you start a scene with them, you each gain spoons. There's a bunch of options. This is very much a mechanic way to kind of build out a
Hmm.
bit of your character.
Yeah, no, I find that absolutely fascinating actually. I I kind of I love that. I'm like thinking of like how it would actually work in play, and it gives, like you said, kind of building out that character a little bit. Absolutely correct. Oh
Um,
man.
in the actual play, I none of them. I think eventually two people out of five mentioned their vibe, and it's
Mhm.
very subtle. It is very obvious how choosing that vibe shaped how they curated their character's narrative.
Mhm.
It's a very I think kind of more subtle way because it's not a huge part of a character, but it also is.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's a little bit of both, and it can also like help you inform like how to role play your character and like how they interact with people and things like that, or interact with the world. Oh my gosh, I love that. That is, I love again how that small little mechanic can make that big difference.
Yeah, and yeah, this is one of my coolest things, and a thing that I find vibes really hard to make, like to
Mhm.
write mechanically. I think partially because they do have such a punch.
Mhm.
But I do want to add a bit more because each one could be so many characters, and I think it's such a cool little part of the system.
Absolutely. Oh, I totally agree. And so actually, that's how you regain spoons, and I don't think we talked about it yet. How many spoons does a character get?
You start with 10 spoons.
Mhm.
And then you regain all your spoons at the start of each session. There's like one healing ability and your vibe, and that is it. There is no character death. You don't even have to go unconscious. When you are at 0 spoons, you fail every check you attempt.
Oh no, that's so sad.
And because like you just do not have the capacity to do anything, going back to the original spoons theories, you just can't. You are out of spoons. And so also related, there is no TPK, there's no everyone dies. When a monster reduces every player to 0 spoons, either it's just leaves because it doesn't think you're a threat, or you have to make a retreat. You lost your fighting spirit. So it's a weird juxtaposition of there are no stakes, but ego is really, really big and really strong, and that really creates interesting different narratives. And as a CM, I am much less likely to pull my punch. I'm more likely to let everyone just lose and see how the story goes. Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. And I mean, especially, and that's where I appreciate that cozy element, because I definitely know people that would be devastated if their character died and they want to play games where they don't have to worry about that. So I love that that's the default option. That's how it works in your game. You know, it's not character death. It's just, you know, you can't actually do anything, but you can still be a part of the scene, which is also cool.
And so I kind of lied when I say you can't do anything. You can do one thing. There's an action called Help Your Friend, and you can attempt it when you have 0 spoons. And it says, if you succeed, you give your friend a bonus dice.
Oh, I love that. I love collaboration.
Yeah, no, this is very much a Cottagecore is really about community. This game, I'm going to say there's a right way to play this game. Optimally, it is really about teamwork, deciding who gets the boosts, who gets the buffs. Buffing is balanced to be very strong.
No, I like that a lot. I personally just love those games where work does want you to work as a team, because I think that is so much more fun than just working solo and worrying, you know, if you're in a combat, like in a D&D combat, like if I'm in a combat, I'm just going to worry about the enemy that I'm dealing with, unless I guess I'm a cleric or have healing spells and I need to heal people. But I love just pushing the fact that everyone should work together. So how many of the abilities revolve around teamwork and actually helping your friends?
A decent amount. Some of the ones off the top of my head is I have a whole tree basically. You don't have, like, they aren't dependent, but they combo really well together about being a cheerleader, and this is all about buffing the help a friend action. There is probably the strongest ability in the game is inspiration. Was bardic inspiration, but I'm renaming it to just inspiration, which grants for 1 round. You can only use this once a session. Find your charm score. Every player adds that as a bonus to their next roll. They roll that many extra dice.
Oh, wow. And so if you have a good charm, like at least off the bat, you could have 4. Adding 4 extra dice, oh, that is crazy.
And there's a few others that are, there's another one you can give yourself bad luck. Basically it's called misfortune. You roll as normal, find every dice that succeeded and re-roll those dice to give fortune, the reverse of that, to all of your to a ally.
That's so cool. I love that so much. Yeah.
Yeah, no, teamwork is a big part of the game.
Yeah, and I love games that have supportive abilities that actually matter. Like you mentioned with like the buffing actually is a mechanic that you need to use. Like that's something that's important and, is meant to be used often in the game. And it just makes that collaborative, working together. Oh my God, I love it. Oh, I want to
Um,
try this now.
and so kind of going that, so every person can always help a friend.
Hmm.
Some people will be better about it, just like in real life.
Hmm.
Some people, I have some amazing cheerleaders of my own, so it's similar to that. And then kind of going more to that explicitly in the rule books, it is said that if you don't think your players are going to work as a team, use easy mode, which decreases health of the monsters and their difficulty numbers by like 2, because
Oh
the
wow.
game just will not work if.
Mhm.
And that's also like the introduction should be ran at a easier level.
Yeah. Absolutely. Plus to even just introduce people to the game, but
Exactly.
also that they should work together. And I think that's something that should definitely be talked about is like, this is a game where working as a team and, being a community is so important. Oh my God, I love it. So cool. And I so we're kind of going into encounter type things and combat type stuff. So let's talk about that a bit more. How does running a combat within this game work?
So we aren't ready for combat yet.
Oh, we're not? Okay, all
Be
good.
before you can fight the monster, you have to hunt the monster.
Okay. Ooh, yes.
Oh, so a very like I don't this there's a gameplay loop.
Hmm.
I often will actually in a campaign, I find that you probably will do a variation of this. In a one shot, you can build characters, have them RP a bit, and then be like, okay, you want to build something to make this cottage cozier. Let's
Hmm.
talk about it. Let's choose a monster that you can use as resources, or that maybe if you don't want to kill the monster, that is guarding resources that you need to build
Hmm.
what you want for the cottage. Then you go hunt the monster. Each hunt is a miniature adventure. Some
Hmm.
of them are very, very small. Some of them are 3 to 5 scenes of various small challenges you have to beat before you fight the monster.
Hmm.
This also makes the game very easy to pick up. You can basically run this game no prep.
Oh, yeah, I absolutely love that.
Like if you really want to run this at that type of um at that style of game, yeah, you can just pick up, choose a monster, run the hunt. Now once you go through the hunts, some of the hunts, by the way, are traumatic. One of the hunts has a flower that makes you hallucinate dead family members.
Oh.
Very much kind of going for the ways to get some RP in some of them. Some of
Hmm.
the hunts are just make a few rolls. Okay, you found the monsters. Yay!
I
Um,
love the variety.
yeah. And so then the fights.
Hmm.
Fights are meant to be short, tactical, and brutal.
Hmm.
At the start of each fight, the monster will use its opening ability that is only used at the start of combat.
Hmm. Oh, that's cool.
Then the monster takes its first turn.
Hmm.
Then the players each take their turn. No initiative, usually. There's a few abilities that might slow you down,
Hmm.
usually. Just talk among yourselves. Choose the order you want to go in.
I love that because That's actually a way that I switched my D&D campaigns, how I run my combat in my D&D games recently, was there's that turn-based initiative where it's like the monster, then the players, or, whichever order, but the players all act at the same time. And I think that is a brilliant way to do combat because it does enforce that collaborative nature as well, because you want to work as a team and you can work as a team with being able to buff and support each other and set each other up for, a actual like big move, like a, stabbing or not stabbing, but actually like hurting things and stuff like that.
Sometimes, like, going back to killing your darlings, sometimes getting rid of grids, getting rid of rigid initiative systems really is so freeing. It allows for different gameplay, but not always less. I actually think it adds tactical elements because you have to decide who goes when.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. It fully adds that tactical element. I love it.
But also, like, it adds discussion, and so maybe about the amount of time it takes to keep track of initiative, but I think it's more informative to the fight and the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So on their turn, each character can do one thing. They can hit with a weapon. They can cast a spell, which is everyone has access to a basic spell attack. It's just use your alchemy instead of your muscle. Gotcha. You can also have some abilities give you new cool spells. You can activate a special ability. You can help a friend, or you can think outside the box. Ooh. Which just means you do a thing and the cottage master tries to figure out rules to justify it.
Oh. It's whatever you want to do that isn't defined.
Right, so very much kind of going more towards the narrative style of gameplay.
I absolutely agree. And I think even just the openness of keeping the spells and like attacks just like, one rule, it seems. It's the one rule for how to do a spell attack, and then it can, you can expand on it more if you have special abilities, but I like that simplicity as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's really works well. There's some patterns that start to emerge that you'll see between spells and other systems, but nothing that you actually have to be part of the rules. They are part of the ability rules.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And so do you find that your players, with having some experience playtesting and running your game, how creative do the players tend to be when it comes to combat encounters?
Surprisingly, lots of them very much stay in the confines of the rule systems, but do things that surprise me, for sure. Especially some of the more when you manipulate elements, those type of things, trying to find way to synergize between people. There's a lot of building grounds, but never feels like I'm like off guard as a GM.
You have the support to be able to rule it and all of that, which I think is great.
Exactly, and I give some running the game advice about how to deal with these abstract, unexpected things that do not have rules.
What do you... I'm curious if you have a story of like one of the most out of the box or the biggest thing that has surprised you when you've run one of your games.
Let's see. Just this week actually, a character was like use their shatter ability to attempt to blind a monster. It doesn't say anything about being able to blind the monster, but there are rules about blinding, and there's rules about using shatter abilities for other stuff besides what is explicit and let's say ability score. A lot of my surprises there really comes from that character curation, the way people weave threads through their character options.
Do you have I'm curious as well then, do you have a favorite one of those from the actual character creation?
Um, one of my characters, without giving too much spoilers to their game plan, they are playing a witch's familiar. Like, not the
Ooh.
witch. They were they were ex-familiar to a witch. Just a cat. Every ability really ties to their story, their background. They are going to choose a specific upgrade when they level up. That is such a unique spin on the normal type. I'll message it to you without saying it.
All good. No, I think that's so cool though, and that sounds really creative. You are a witch's familiar. That is so cool. Players are so creative.
Uh,
I think it's endlessly amazing.
Another character is a ice cream alchemist because they took this very silly ability when I was I had been feeling very unhinged when I wrote the ice cream manipulation power. And then, like, their entire backstory kind of ties into how they became this in a not silly way.
Mm-hmm.
I would go
so
as
cool.
far as saying maybe possibly traumatic way.
Oh.
Yeah.
And is this one of the characters in the
Yes.
actual play? Oh, I love
Yes.
that. That's so cool. That like just witches familiar and ice cream manipulator. I
Uh,
mean, where else are you gonna do that?
the other person is a sloth. Another character is a sloth person, ex cheerleader, interior designer. Uh, Once again, with like actual story, not just like a one-minute joke character.
Mhm.
So that is really where I have been mostly surprised by this. I'm sure I will be surprised in combat. I've ran more of the combat solo than I've ran it with people.
I see. So
Uh,
haven't had as
right.
much as the experience. That makes complete sense, but I think, character creation and character ideas is a fantastic way to be surprised. I love being surprised as a GM. I think it's amazing the opportunities and the options and the freedom that you have with the character creation in this game.
Yeah, no, that's what that's a big thing about why I liked it. And I think I mentioned this was one time a very small game, and adding character creations was why it kept growing, and then I needed some other support system to justify new options. But so going back to combat, after each character has their turn, the round so each round is each player taking one turn. The round doesn't end yet. Each monster has a closer ability. These are, I think of them as kind of auto-triggering. The GM usually doesn't choose who it targets. The rule says, target the player with the most spoons, target the player with the least spoons, target the player with maybe the status conditions might have a number with the highest this status condition.
I think that's really cool. And so does that happen at the end of every round?
Yes, and then you go back and the monster takes its turn. And so you'll see that the monster starts with an opening, then the first round begins, the monster has a turn, then has a miniature turn at the end of the round. Very much trying to fight a theme that D&D 5e does terribly. The action economy. This is a boss battler. This is a group of characters versus one big monster. The rules have to support that type of gameplay.
And the players should, I mean, I wouldn't say at a disadvantage, but they are outnumbered. They are outpowered.
I really want to, if I really narratively, I have the formula for how I build monsters, like an actual mathematical formula. And I've really modeled it after anime and sports movies. you want to make the characters terrified before they have a turn.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The characters which might start their first turn with half their health.
Oh gosh, that is terrifying. And so like how much on at least average or an example of how hard a monster hits in one turn?
Let's see. I would say a pretty good example would be. Do I have a good example? Yes, I do. A good example would be the Leviathansaurus Rex. It deals about 3 spoons with its opener, makes them weak to electricity, so they will lose an extra spoon, and then use a lightning rod to deal every character 1 damage, which is electricity, so now it's going to be 2 damage, and a specific character 3 damage, so you're up to, 5 for most of them, and 7 damage out of 10 for 1 character.
That's insane. Oh man,
and
that hurts.
Then each character has their round, which they might make an attack hit, but only at a cost of a spoon, and then its closer will trigger every character loses a spoon.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow, that is I mean, you mentioned brutal. That is definitely very brutal.
So fights are meant to be brutal and quick. You're supposed to have these moments of feeling like total defeat, building up to a victory.
Mm-hmm. How many turns do you think it normally takes to defeat a monster in this game?
I think 3. I think 3 turns is really what I consider a sweet spot. Mathematically, players can't live much longer than 3 turns, so...
Minor detail, surely.
A weaker monster will probably go down in 1 turn if the players know what they are doing. 2 to 3 is pretty average. If it gets to 5th turn, it's either a really bad matchup, or they're going to win on like one of the first actions.
That's, I mean, as someone who's run very long D&D combats, there's nothing wrong with shorter combats like that. I love it.
For me, combat should be, I love combat. It goes on so long. I want my combats. I like my boss fights. I like my big thematic fights. And if I can make them go a bit quicker, yes, please.
Please, yes. And I love that it seems like the only combat that does happen in this game are those boss fights where you are trying to get something, you're trying to achieve a goal, and I adore that.
There's a few small fights, but those, like, there's minions. Minions have 1 health usually. They only move at the end of the turn and deal 1 damage to 1 person. Those fights are designed to make you feel good about yourself. That's the entire game design philosophy of making you feel really strong before a monster beats the Can I cuss here?
Yeah, you can say shit.
Before the monster can beat the shit out of you.
Oh my gosh, I like that. That's a fun. I mean, it does give you that feel, especially like when you start a game. You start even in like a video game. You fight lower level enemies, things that are easy before it just like puts a really tough enemy before you, and then you get your ass kicked.
Yep. The other time I use those small fights and hunts is to introduce a gimmick that I am going to use in the actual boss fight. So just like an hour before we got on, I was writing the Medusa, and the Medusa petrifies you, obviously. So you're slowly are turning to stone. You fight some snakes that come from their head that previews this ability before you get to the boss fight.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a fun way to do it. You get no, yeah, I like that. You introduce those like mechanics and you introduce those ideas first before actually getting into a fight. I like that a lot. That's cool.
Yep.
No, that's really awesome. So when you finish the combat, however you're able, either by defeating the monster, neutralizing it in some way, whatever, and you are able to get your material, you go back to where essentially kind of the cottage is, and you work on that part.
Yes.
How does that work?
So there's some very basic crafting rules. The kind of main crafting is to craft I call them magic home good items. They're not just a chair. They are a stove powered by the moat of a fire elemental. They're that type of stuff, and you make a crafting check. Some of these have special abilities that are added. Other ones will just give you more extra cozy points. Cozy points are experience. There is in-game lore about the goddess of the moon, Miss Luna, that judges each cottage each night, and when it becomes cozy enough, you will increase the rank. This will give a few bonuses I suggest, but do not explicitly state that ranks are related to level up, just so you can have different gameplay experience. But cozy points give you more spawns. They give you a few extra picks and stuff. Cozy ranks as you rank up the cottage.
That's so cool. I love just, the I know there's an actual term for it, but like, home base. You get to actually work on that and advance it. Oh, that's so fun. Or oh god, there is a word for it. It's I don't know. I love that is a thing, because that's it reminds me a little bit about a mechanic that's in the game Vaesen, which is actually like a Victorian or a Gothic horror like monster hunting game where you have like a base that you build up over time. It's very different to this, very different, but
so,
it gives me that idea.
It's funny you say that, because Vaesen is very much not a game I ever heard about until I started on this game, and so many people have recommended me to look at Vaesen. The designer, the guy who actually laid out the book, he used Vaesen as a guide for the master. We kind of used how Vaesen laid out the master pages as our jumping off points for laying out our own master.
That's
physically
like
on the page.
Yeah. I love the way that they lay it out. It's simple, and it gives a lot of like role play information and a lot of things like that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I definitely recommend checking it out. It's a really cool game. Even in general, like even if it's generally a cool game, but that's really awesome that you have taken some inspiration from that. And I just, just with the base building and all of that, absolutely fantastic. Though you mentioned leveling up a few times. How does that work?
So it is very simple. I have a list of picks, essentially. You can, and you choose one of them. You can choose one extra ability for a total of 10, meaning you can't choose it every time. You can unlock one gear slots for a total of 3, which can also be used for extra pets instead. You can
an army of pets.
That might be one of the strongest builds, and also one of the cutest builds.
It would be so cute. I love it.
You can gain an additional vibe up to 3.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, and so you get even more ways to get those spoons back. Oh yeah, I like that. Yeah. Cool.
You can increase your max spoons, and then you can increase your attributes, but you can't just increase you can't just keep pushing up on your main ability. You can only get up to a total of 6, and you can only have one ability at 6.
Okay, I like that. So you can't just go full in.
And there's various other rules that kind of stop you from really maxing the stats out.
I mean, you need to suck at something.
Exactly. And you can make the thing you suck at better. Making it decent, like having all 4s would use like all of your ability, most of your perk unlocks from level 1 through like 7.
Yeah, and that would be pretty good. But yeah, I personally I always love failure and like negative things in TTRPG. So the fact that there is limits with that, I really enjoy.
I mean, yeah, I like characters that are heroic, but not perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to play a character that's good at every stat, because I just love those moments where the GM asked you to roll something and it's like, I suck at that, and then you roll really bad. It's like, yep, that's what I expected. Because it's just fun, and it brings almost that, like, it brings comedy and stuff to the game where it's like, you suck at that, or it brings just interesting scenarios.
Yeah, I really love that. I'm usually a GM, but one of my characters, she has major flaws. She has negative wisdom. She's the spellcaster. She repeatedly goes first in the dungeons because she gets tricked to it. She is okay strength, not best. And I really love that. I love kind of pushing the not perfect part. It adds character, it adds humor, it adds a lot to the game, I think.
It really does, and it's just it adds also to the RP experience as well, which, I mean, I definitely love those RP heavier games where everyone just has these interesting flawed characters.
Exactly, and so I think I mentioned I play very crunchy RPGs, and I like games that are both RP and crunch focused.
Yeah, because they bring those different elements, and it kind of, you're playing. That's what I think what's great about TTRPGs is, you're getting the mix of both, mechanics and role play. Because if you just wanted a purely mechanic game, you could play something like a board game and feed some of those urges. It is different. There are different elements that a TTRPG brings as well that a board game doesn't. But I think that's what makes them the most attractive, is bringing in, mechanics and rules and being able to work with those along with characters that you are playing and being able to build the story together with your friends. I think it's amazing.
Exactly, that's a big appeal for me personally.
Yeah, especially with I think people can play however they want. If they want to play a crunch game for the sake of mechanics and builds and stuff like that, go for it. That's just, I know personally that's what I love, and I think that's what TTRPGs definitely appeal for a lot of people, is those elements combined together.
I fully agree.
Amazing. I love it so much. So, actually, I don't think you mentioned specifically, how does one, level up? Like, we know what you get when you level up, but what was actually the step, what causes you to level up, I guess I should say.
Whatever. That's the exact rules in the book, is that I give suggestions. I do give suggestions, but I find leveling up and pacing and style to be so group specific. It's weird to have actual rules for that. So I suggest milestone. I also suggest you can tie it into the cottage rank, but it doesn't have to be tied into the cottage rank. But I think it's nice if you level up every time your cottage ranks up.
Yeah, and it kind of ties in together and you know what you're working towards. I like that. Absolutely. No, I think that's a good idea, not having like a hard, fast rule for it. Gives a 'cause milestone's great.
And even for ranking up your cottage, there's no chart saying you need this many cozy points. I give suggestions. Maybe it's 10 per level. Maybe you need 10 for one to go from 1 to 2, and then you need 30 more to go from 2 to 3.
Do the actual things that you craft have a cozy point like value to them, or is there a way to figure that out?
They do have a cozy point value to them based off of how well you rolled when you crafted. And then there's also other ways to get cozy points. You can garden, fish, whatever. There's like a generic rule for attempting to make the cottage cozier.
Yeah, I like that. I love that you can get cozy points from fishing. That's adorable.
And it's not kind of the ideal there. You could easily run a one-shot without combat. So
Yeah, just be like doing stuff in the cottage and all of that. That would be adorable.
the exact gameplay is called cozy mode, and that would be vary from group to group. I had some groups who really loved it.
And some not so much.
I didn't even, if I knew they wouldn't like, I wouldn't even bring that up as an option for them.
Yeah, and I think I love it. It reminds me Wander Home, I think, is the big one that I saw things like this, where different styles of play, and having that cozy option where, you can just hang out in your cottage and build things and fish and craft and cook and all of that. Love it. It's so cute.
And for me, like, doing that felt very yes, naturally, but I really kind of thought that a lot of people don't understand that they don't need to be told, they can just do that, so that's kind of why it is part of the actual rules.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's actually exactly.
It gives people permission.
Yes, because in a lot of TTRPGs, it is very encounter or combat focused, things like that. And so when you enter into a game space and not really familiar with cozy TTRPGs, can be very easy to be okay, we just do the monster hunting. The cottage thing is kind of a separate, that's separate from what the actual story is. But no, it's all combined, and
exactly
giving that rule in the book to give permission, I think, is a fantastic way to describe it.
Me too.
Have you had any with there's always going to be different groups and different players, but have you had any people that really love one aspect and really don't like the aspect with trying both of the elements, the cozy and the monster hunting?
So my partner is a major inspiration for this game. She's the one who has $800 on Animal Crossing, probably. She plays RPGs with me regularly, but I would call her more of a casual one. And she was one of the reasons there. She didn't dislike the monster hunting. She's part of the reason why you don't have to kill a monster. And she is part of the reason why I have some explicit rules, because she loves Animal Crossing and she wants to grind out her cozy points to get the cottage up.
Absolutely. Also, I get a lot of from what you're saying about the game as well. Animal Crossing for sure, but also Stardew Valley. I get that a lot as well, where it's the cozy, the grind, and all of that. Plus, Stardew Valley actually does have the combat option of going into the caves and doing whatever. I think that's amazing.
I'm playing around with a optional NPC romance system, kind of very much inspired by those type of things, and it's not for players who want romance via roleplay. It's for players who want to grind out their romance by finding their NPC's favorite hamburger and just finding that out to rank up.
That would be so fun.
Cause I have many players who would want to be dramatic and roleplay. I also have players who be like, okay, I want this on my sheet. I'm gonna keep rolling until we succeed.
I want to complete this now. This is on my checklist. I need to do this. I love that so much. But I mean, I love games that do like specific things very well, and I love that this game does both the monster hunting and the cozy, base building very well, and you can pick and choose what you want and what elements you want to keep in the game and all of that, which is a great way to design a game. You want to have it open so that people can pick it apart and play with what they want to play with.
A thing that surprises me is that cozy mode is actually very grindy, and that's actually emulates cozy games because it is perfect for a no-stakes game, being like, we want to get the cottage ranked up today, we're just going to go fish, we're going to describe how we fish, we're going to describe how we do the garden where we plant the flowers. Nothing dramatic is happening. We're just gonna roll some dice and maybe level up if we roll good enough. Like, that is,
I love it.
Such a weird way weird to the standards of RPGs, but weirdly attractive. Just like chilling out, having no stakes, make believe with friends. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why Wanderhome is so popular as well.
I agree. And the thing is, you can then use the system to tell something with more stakes and teeth.
And you can even decide to start out with a game that might be more cozy, but people might want to add those stake elements as they continue on too.
You mentioned Wanderhome. Wanderhome kind of has a lot of... Wait, am I thinking Wanderhome or Root?
Oh, Root.
Yeah.
Root. Wanderhome's the cozy one. Root's like your vagabonds fighting against, or not fighting against, but like going, like trading, like betraying sides and doing all that kind of stuff. Both very good games.
both are very good games. But I think one of them also has this very cutesy thing that hides a lot of trauma under it, which I also think is a big thing that just like emergently happens in the long-term Cottages and Cerberus games. Unless you really lay into the comedy, you kind of start thinking about how coziness is a response to trauma.
Absolutely, and I like because I think that is why a lot of people do like those cozy games. Those are things that they can control, and that like it makes them feel safe, and it's all of that. So I love that added element into an actual like almost TTRPG version of. I mean, not almost, is a TTRPG version of a cozy game, and so you can kind of have. And again, that's where I think it is even more enforced with the spoons and like that language. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you. I think it's a pretty cool game.
Yeah, I think it's a very cool game. I love it so much. And actually, I'd love, because I am also very commonly a GM. And so when I'd love to play this game. And so when I'm thinking of it, I'm always going to be thinking about it from a more GM perspective, because I'm like, all right, how can I run this for my players? I'd love to talk about, your... do you have any advice for people who would like to run Cottages and Cerberus?
So I actually had quite a few people who be like, Chris, what if I ran a game in this? People who never ran games, people who want to run games but maybe are intimidated, people like my partner who said they would never want to be a game master. Then approach me about this. My honest thing would be start. You can start running this game in 10 minutes. The hardest part is finding people. You read the main rules are summarized on about 3 pages.
Perfect.
You have people pick out quick start characters. You then do the very basic loop of roleplay a bit, then would you make this place cozier? Choose a monster guarding that resource, and then just run it out of the book. You don't need to prep anything. You can just run it right there. And I think maybe another design goal was to make this very easy for first-time game masters.
No, I appreciate that. I think that is fantastic advice. Just do it. And especially with how you're describing your game, it has those little bit of crunchier elements, but I think that comes in, more towards the, picking character stuff and like almost kind of grinding some things. Yeah. But like, I think it's totally approachable as like a first time game. It's easy to learn. It's got an easy loop to understand, and adding in those other support elements. Fantastic.
And then for longer term and more experienced campaigns and GMs, think about talk about what you want, because this game is designed to cater differently. So just have those conversations. Don't make assumptions of you have to play it like this. You don't.
Yeah.
I guess I'm gonna plug the Kickstarter a bit more.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So also, hack the game if you want. As part of the Kickstarter, this might be the first time I officially told someone, like, out in the public. I'm offering, I think, 2 or 3 or 4. Like, I'm not sure how long they will end up being. I need to edit myself a bit. Miniature hacks of the system. I have sci-fi, where you're finding stuff for a spaceship.
Oh, that's so fun.
It was very much inspired by Cowboy Bebop. Just kind of bunch of people, interesting people, just trying to keep their spaceship afloat, trying to get some extra money, that type of stuff. There is cozy cyberpunk, as in the cottage real estate market kind of is owned by one company, and they now own everything. Dystopia. And they use monsters to subjugate the masses. And in that, you are not building your cottage. You are stealing stuff to take care of your community.
Oh, I like that a lot.
And then my most recent one is Super Sentai Power Rangers, because this is a game about teamwork and boss fighting, and Power Rangers is essentially just teamwork and fighting a boss.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so kind of the thing is, hack the system, this system, take what you like, move it to a setting that you envisioned. That's my plug.
Absolutely. I actually love that those are things that you want to add into the book. It just gives even more of those options and gives those people who are playing or running the game more things to think about of the direction of the game.
Exactly.
So I think that's amazing. And again, the Kickstarter is going to be coming out. It's September 6th, which is a Wednesday.
Yes, it is.
So exciting. And, anyone who is listening, please, find it on Kickstarter. Again, it is going to be advertised on your Twitter, I believe.
Yes, quite aggressively. Related to that, I obviously spent a lot of time thinking about each of these monsters. I am also offering, as like they would be PDF add-ons, kind of versions of all of the monsters for 5e and Pathfinder 2.
Oh, fun! That's actually really fun.
Because I'm going to end up doing that for my home games for like 70% of the monsters anyway. Makes sense to just finish that. Exactly.
Here you go, especially if you just find them insanely fascinating and you just want to play Cottages and Cerberuses for a few sessions. Maybe you want the actual monsters to go into something that you're going to play for a much longer term. Plus, it's just cool to have monsters.
I'm a big monster fan. Obviously, Pokemon was like my first love. So I love cool monsters. I love the designs and all that. So I always could use more monster books.
That's actually what I love. Like, Vaesen has one of my like favorite, just the way they do their monster layouts and their pages and stuff like that. So like when you're saying that you're like that was an inspiration, it's like, man, well now I want to see the monster like pages. I want to see what they look like because I just love what they did for that.
Perfect.
No, but that's
I after we record, I can share some of those because
absolutely, I'd love to see.
I'll also share the character sheet because it's like the cutest character sheet. My designer Bella did amazing.
Oh, that's so cool. I cannot wait to see. And actually, that reminds me of something. When you mentioned that the rules for the game can be easily understood on like 3 pieces of paper. Is that within the book, or are you planning on doing some sort of like reference tools to like be able to print out where it's got all the rules on just a few pieces of paper to give to players and even to have on hand for the GM?
I am both. So the first it's like pages after you get through the table of contents. Mm-hmm. It's like pages 4, 5, and 6, and then a tiny bit of 7. Have the rules. These aren't normal size pages. These are 6 by 9, so smaller than your standard RPG book. Mm-hmm. Has everything you need. The rest of the book restates it, clarifies stuff. You only need to read this to start. I am also planning to make a printout. I've made a quick reference sheet for my players that have status conditions, and I'm probably going to spruce that up and make a printout. I also don't think I've mentioned everyone can access this free right now. I have a 60-page preview out. I have it out on the Twitter right now, and so yeah, you can like see it now.
Perfect. Yes, and I absolutely suggest doing so. Which you are. What is your @ again, just so people can find you?
Cottagecore _RPG.
Perfect. Yes, go over to Cottagecore _TTRP. God,
just RPG.
Yeah, RPG. Oh my gosh, it's RPG and TTRPG, and my brain cannot differentiate apparently.
Yes, autocomplete.
There's too many T's, too many RPGs words. But yes, go over to Cottagecore _RPG and check out the free version, especially before the Kickstarter comes out, so that you can get a taste for what the game's going to be like, and even be able to run it yourself, so that you can be 100% confident to actually go and get Cottages and Cerberuses when it comes out on Kickstarter.
If anything, it's a really pretty book.
It is really, really cute. I've looked through it quite a bit, and it is adorable, and I can't wait to get to actually like dive into it a bit more. And this has been absolutely amazing, I have to say. I would love to delve even further. I'm very excited for when the Kickstarter actually comes out. I might have to try and convince maybe some friends to play this with me, but
I mean, yes, please do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to, but this has been absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to actually be able to play. And again, for the Kickstarter to come out, because I am a huge sucker for TTRPG Kickstarters. I love getting the games so much, and I love supporting the work and the actual creators themselves too, especially ones that I know, which is, again, very nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you as well.
But yes, no, this has been fantastic. And actually, I do want to ask, is there, for the actual Kickstarter, is it going to be only PDF copies, or is there going to be a physical book as well?
Oh, there's going to be a physical book.
Yes.
I cannot wait for that to like page through that book. I'm very excited. Planning for this actual play, I'm like, I want to be able to go outside and plan this without my computer and just page through all the monsters, but we aren't even done with that yet. But I am very excited to get this physical copy.
Yes, absolutely. I can't wait to like see it and hear about it, because I mean, It's a bad habit to always get the physical copies in every single Kickstarter because you want that, you want that pen and paper experience where you have the book in your hand and you can find the pages yourself and all of that. It's amazing.
Exactly.
This is so fantastic. I seriously can't wait for it to come out. I'm definitely going to be backing it, whether it be at the physical or the PDF tier. It will be one of them. But no, this has been amazing. And I'm trying to think, because I think we're coming to the end of today's episode. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we haven't quite covered that should be.
Let's see, I'm flipping through the books to see if there's anything big. I guess I'll quickly mention, so each monster also has, most monsters has variations or hunts, or hooks, which are like plot hooks, that can tie in to a story, or basically make the monster a bit harder, make it very different. One of the monsters is a wind weasel, inspired by the Japanese folklore with like scythe for hands. One of the variations is the Grim Reaper.
Oh, that's so cool.
So I'm doing a lot of the variation writing right now, and I'm really enjoying taking this base monster and really changing it up with just a few lines.
And it I love as well with, giving those variations, and it does give those almost easy plot hooks to do for like one shots or short scenarios. That does make it so much easier to zero prep run a game. I love it. Perfect.
Yep. And then I also have a random NPC table and a random event table of stuff to happen randomly while you're in cottage mode, kind of to facilitate more zero prep gameplay.
Yeah, and like, those random events that happen during cottage, or not cottage, cozy RPGs like that too. I love it.
Yeah. I think that's everything on my end.
Perfect. That is absolutely fantastic. Like I said, I love this game. I can't wait for it to come out. It has been an absolute blast talking to you, Chris. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about your game, because I love learning about it, and I just can't wait. And I hope everyone who has listened, you will go get Cottages and Cerberuses when it comes out, because it's awesome, and, support awesome people too. Yeah, it's mandatory. But yes, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Thank you so much, Chris. If you would like to do one final kind of plug at the end, where people can find you and when the Kickstarter is going to come out, so that everyone knows.
Yes. Thank you for having me. You can find me at Cottagecore _RPG at Twitter, and then there's link to our Twitch page and to the Kickstarter and our various others.
Perfect. Absolutely fantastic. So please go check out Chris over on Twitter and just get all the access to everything that is out so that you can get the game when it comes out. But yes, thank you again. This has been fantastic, and I think we are at the end. So thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you everyone so much for listening to this episode. I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you really want to get Cottages and Cerberuses as well, because I have such an insane need for it. It's a little bit crazy. If you did enjoy this episode, I really hope that you would consider giving the RPG Goblin a review, because that means the absolute world to me and helps keep this podcast going, knowing that people like it. Thank you so much to Chris for coming on and talking about Cottages and Cerberuses with me. If you want to support Chris and contribute to the Kickstarter that's going to be coming out September 6th, please make sure to go follow him on Twitter at Cottagecore _RPG. Follow the Kickstarter page so that you can keep updated on when it releases and all of the awesome updates of the actual game itself once it goes up. The next episode of the RPG Goblin will be coming out August, Friday 18th, and this episode is going to be about making mistakes in TTRPGs, as I bring back Curtis once again to talk about making mistakes and how it's okay. I absolutely adored recording this episode. I think that it's really important to know that it's okay to make mistakes when playing these games and to hear experiences of other people making these mistakes to know that you're not alone. So I'm really excited for this episode. And once again, it's going to be coming out Friday, August 18th, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So make sure to keep your eyes out for when that comes out next week, and I'll see you then.